One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. Northern Iowa Athletic Director David Harris is my guest today on One Question. David has been in Cedar Falls for how long now, David? A year and a half, 2 years? When were you hired?
Not that long. It's only been about 8 months. I was hired on March the 28th of this year.
Does it feel like a year and a half or 2 years?
Some days it does. But for the most part, it's actually the opposite. The time goes by quickly. I was just thinking the other day that I was initially contacted about this position about a year ago this week. And so since that point, it's been a year of transition from considering this opportunity with my family over the Christmas break to coming back and deciding to get in the search in January, and then ultimately getting in and going through the process through February and having my press conference on February the 24th. So it's been a year that's gone by quickly just because you get so involved in the job and there's so many things that go along with it, so many different meetings, and your schedule is crazy. And so you look up and it's the summer, you look up, it's the fall, and next thing you know, it's the holiday. So it's actually going by pretty quickly.
And you just commented before we started recording that things were slowing down a little bit because exams and the holiday season's around us. And as we know, I don't know if things really ever truly slow down for athletic directors or anybody in athletics. It's just a constant laundry list of things to do to move your brand forward. And that's the way it goes. And I actually want to start by asking you to do some retrospection on your career. And I'm always really interested in talking about like formative experiences, whether it be for an athletic director or senior associate AD or deputy AD. And you've worked under some notable names in this industry, of course, Jamie Pollard at Iowa State. I'm thinking your time at Wisconsin would have included Barry and Pat Richter.
Right.
And then you had obviously a stint at Ole Miss. And I'm curious, are there specific instances of working for those athletic directors that you commonly recall of, I remember when he did this in this situation, and that helps you to frame how you're going to approach a particular set of dynamics? If there are instances like that, what were there? What are they that shaped who you are as an athletic director today?
Well, I would say a couple of things. One, when you think about the people that I've had a privilege to be able to work with and work under, at the end of the day, I don't know that you will approach situations necessarily thinking about things that they would have done or how they would handle certain situations, but because with someone like Jamie, that I had a chance to be able to work with him for so long that when I'm thinking about a situation or thinking about an event or an approach to an event, a lot of times I'll find that I was around him so much that the way that I think and see something has his influence in it without me being aware of it. So at some point, you're around someone so much and they give you so much wisdom and advice about a particular topic that it just becomes a naturally ingrained way in how you see the world, or at least how you see this particular subject area. Now, going back further than that, when you talk about formative experiences, I can remember being at Ole Miss where in 2001 I had an opportunity to become a part of the NCAA Leadership Institute for Ethnic Minority Males. Right now it's just referred to as the NCAA Leadership Institute because it includes males and females. But back then it was just meant to be for ethnic minority males, and there were 20 of us who were chosen to be in the very first class back in 2001, 2002. And the idea was they wanted to prepare ethnic minority men to be athletic directors. And at that point, I had only given some passing consideration to becoming an AD, but I saw this program. It looked interesting. It was a 14-month program in which I went to the NCAA offices on 5 different occasions. The first 4 times were for weekends. The last time was for an entire week, and they would bring in different speakers, different facilitators to train us in different areas like fundraising and dealing with the media and leadership. And so I went through that process, graduated from the Institute right before I left Ole Miss to go to Wisconsin. And that was really what got me thinking about having a career where I would pursue becoming an athletics director, wanting to be an AD. And so for the past 16 years, I've really been preparing myself and trying to pursue an opportunity to be an AD, because going through that experience with the other 19 men in that program, with all the people who invested time in us, who gave of themselves to help teach us, who helped to kind of open the doors for us to be able to see behind the scenes about what life is like as an AD, because there were some current and former ADs who came in and spoke with us during that time period. I felt like that was really a formative experience for me, and really got me fired up about what a career in this profession could be like, the opportunity that you would have to have an influence on a wider range of people, the chance that you would have to make sure the student athletes would have a fantastic experience, and just a chance to really be able to move the profession of being an AD forward, and hopefully help to move college athletics forward. So that was probably my primary formative experience a long time ago, as I was, just fairly early within the profession. As far as opportunities to work with Pat and work with Barry and work with Jamie, as I said, it's not so much about any individual situation or something that happened where, I took something specific from it, especially, as I said, with Jamie, when you work with someone for 14 years, there's so much wisdom that's passed on over a period of time that it really just begins to be ingrained in the way that you think about things. Although I will say that with Jamie, ultimately I think about coaching searches, because we had an opportunity to do several of those. I believe we did 3 of them in football. We did 2 of them in basketball, men's basketball. We did 1 in wrestling, and then did a couple even in soccer as well that I had a chance to be a part of the search committee. And I can remember him saying to me at one point, with these searches, you don't ultimately know who's going to win or lose. If you knew who was going to win or lose, then there'd be a lot less coaching searches. So at the end of the day, while you're trying to figure that out, what you really are looking at is who's the person that you really want to work with, that you feel like reflects your values, reflects the values of your institution, that you can really get in a foxhole with and go through the battles that you have to go through as you're trying to build a successful program with integrity that really tries to care for and prepare their student athletes for life after college. And so I've really thought about that since then, because everybody's trying to figure out who's going to win, and some of us are right and some of us are wrong. But at the end of the day, you can't afford to miss on having a coach come in with the strong character necessary to be able to lead your program. That has to be a critical part of the decision.
Yeah, that's some pretty sage advice, I think, on such an inexact science. And the media plays it out like they all could be a search firm or an AD and always pick winners, and that's just not the way it works. Very difficult. And I think you and I have a shared coaching search story from when Fred Hoiberg left y'all's program that I'll remind you of offline, and it's pretty funny, of some time down in Atlanta. But your background is very much built around, you mentioned the student athlete experience, and student services is certainly where your brand was built. And just recently, our Athletic Director U series on Sunday night, we did our first experts roundtable, and part of it was about student athlete time demands. Has your perception or your opinion of how we better balance the academic and athletic demands on student athletes changed at all in your time as an athletic director, or have you become more convinced of what the solutions can be?
I don't believe it's changed. As you mentioned, I got into this profession working in student services, working in academic support and life skills. And one of the reasons that I was attracted to the area is because I obviously had a love for athletics, having been raised by my dad, who was a high school football coach and teacher, went on to become an assistant principal. And then my mom was a director of a foster care program. And so for me, I knew I would end up doing something that involved young people, because that's what I'd seen modeled with my parents. And then I knew I had a strong love for athletics based on the time that I was able to spend with my dad and being in locker rooms and being at practices and being at track meets and being on the sideline for football games. And so college athletics ended up becoming a perfect match for me. But as I got into the profession, I started in student services because I felt that it was a perfect combination of being involved in athletics, but being involved in it on the side of student athlete welfare, helping them see a life for themselves outside of athletics, helping them begin to form what they wanted to do for their career. Because I could think about my own experience and think about the experience of many of my teammates about how we had become successful in our lives, and much of it had to do with the experiences that we drew from participating in athletics, not necessarily athletics itself, but what we could draw out of it and put into our professional lives that would really benefit us. But a part of that equation always was you wanted your student athletes to have a great experience during their time there, and we knew that there were always things that were tugging on them, things that required their attention, things that required their time. And how could we give them the type of balance necessary so that they would leave the institution not feeling like they had been used just for the value that they brought to the school, but that they felt the experience that they had prepared them in a balanced way to go out into their lives and pursue whatever career that they wanted. And so part of that was giving the best you could in your field of competition. Part of that was making sure that academically you got the support that you needed. Part of that was community service. Part of that was also the time that you took on your own to just explore campus, to talk with your professors, to talk with other people, to make sure that your experience was as well-rounded as possible. So if you had ideas or you had thoughts about the way things should be, or things that you wanted to explore deeper, or something you had always been curious about, did you have the time and energy to be able to do that? So as I've become an athletics director, my view on that hasn't changed, although you certainly become more aware of just how important it is that you succeed in the field of competition. You become more aware of all the issues with trying to generate revenue, and that revenue in many cases being based on the fact that you're running a successful program in the various sports that you sponsor. And so it's easy to lose sight of what you're trying to help your student athletes do as the pressure builds to make sure that you have a successful program and that people want to come and consume your product. And so it can be a little bit of a fight within yourself just to make sure that you're keeping your eye focused on the whole picture. You're keeping your eye focused on the balance of being academically strong, competitively good, but also providing an experience for our student athletes that makes them want to be involved with the program once they graduate. When they leave the institution and they have the capacity to give at some point when they've had some success in their career, do they even give a second thought to giving back to your department, to your institution, based on the experience that they've had? Those types of feelings start when they come on your campus for the very first time. They start with how you treat them during orientation. They continue with what happens with them during their freshman year, the things that you expose them to and the way that you talk with them about different opportunities. So my view hasn't changed at all. We know that it's a challenge. We know it's something that's hard to do. Everybody's seeking that balance, but I think it's incredibly important, and I think it's ultimately what we promise our student athletes and their parents that they will get when they enroll at our schools, and I think it's important that we keep that promise.
Is it any more or less challenging at a place like Northern Iowa than it is at a Wisconsin or Iowa State?
I don't think it's any more or less challenging. I think it's, while the nuances can be different in different places and the challenges can be different, I think we're all challenged to try to make sure that our student athletes' time is well spent and that they have an opportunity to have a great experience. Just because one place may have more, financial ability than others, everybody struggles to try to make sure that they have good balance with what they're asking their student athletes to do. So I haven't found that to be dramatically different.
One of the pieces of your story so far at UNI that I find interesting is President Ruud's exit late spring, early summer, I believe, for Marietta College, which maybe some in the higher ed world kind of put their eyebrows up at. Has it altered at all who you go to within the university? And of course, the university is going through a presidential search right now that, according to the media at least, is down to 3 individuals. What's it like to be an AD in this situation, and has it changed who you communicate and work with on the academic side of the institution on a regular basis?
The interesting thing is my world is been so crazy in the first 8 months. I don't know that I can say that it's altered it completely, because my world has been altered so much in just accepting the position.
Yeah.
You're doing so many things for the first time, and so everything is different. Everything about what it is that I'm doing, and my approach to each day, and what my schedule looks like, and who I'm spending time with. Those things are different than being a senior associate AD. In theory, you see those positions as being pretty similar, or at least one is a continuation of the other. But then you get into the position and you can see all the ways in which this job is a lot different than the job of being a deputy or an executive senior associate or whatever your title is. And so for me, I guess I've been in many ways consumed with trying to do my best to do the job that I've been asked to do in these first 8 months, and transitioning into this opportunity, that I'm looking at the big picture of how things are different as opposed to how things might be different from one president to the next. Because honestly, I only had a chance to work with President Rood from the end of March to the beginning of July. And since then, I've had an opportunity to work with our interim president, Jim Wolpert. Both of these gentlemen, I enjoyed my relationship with each of them. They were both very supportive of me personally. They've been supportive of the athletics department. Jim is who I go to and report to now, and I've enjoyed developing that relationship with him. He understands and has a great appreciation for the value that the athletics department can bring to a college campus, which I greatly appreciate. And so for me, while, Jim is one of the finalists for the position that'll actually be named tomorrow. So it could end up being him, or I could have a third president during my first 8 months on the job, which is probably pretty unique. But throughout all of this, I think I've concentrated on just doing the very best job that I can. We have an excellent executive management team at the university that's been in place for a while, with people who've been really helpful to me and who provided a stable leadership structure for the university throughout the entire time that I've been here. So I would expect that to continue. So it is a different and unique situation to be in. But ultimately, the transition has been smooth. From working with Bill to working with Jim, the way that athletics has been treated, the way that I've been treated, and the opportunity that we've had to continue to build momentum. A lot of times when you think about changes, you think about having to kind of take a step back, start all over, and move forward differently with different leadership. But so far, it's been kind of continuous forward movement toward positive things for the university, as well as positive things for the athletics department.
And that's today's One Question, brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. One Question is designed to give D1 Ticker subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences. One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.